Hey guys, welcome back to the Film Fan Club. Sam here. We're still prepping for Alien Covenant. I saw Prometheus over the weekend, so instead of doing a movie news dump, let's talk about that. So Prometheus is Ridley Scott's pseudo-prequel to Alien, of course the classic from 1979 that he also directed. This film stars Noomi Rapace as Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. Her and her husband are aboard the ship Prometheus in space. They're on an expedition to pretty much find the source of human life, trying to meet their maker. They're trying to find the engineers. Michael Fassbender is also aboard the ship. He plays David, an android, and he just plays him brilliantly. But really, things start to go crazy whenever, of course, they get to the planet. They start to figure out what's going on. David has some ulterior motives because the company that David created has kind of programmed him with ulterior motives because the company has ulterior motives. This is just a really crazy, brilliant film, but it's an awful Alien prequel. And what I mean by that is this film is a really well self-contained just kind of story about these people who really are they're scientists in the future. They want to find out who created humans. They, of course, in the parallels between them trying to meet their maker and then David, his relationship with his creators. They are trying to get all these answers, all these beautiful, majestic answers that you kind of build up in your head that you expect to be something greater than life itself. And it turns out it's as hellish as it could be. It's just as messy as it could be. It's just as flawed as humans are. And something that's really interesting, I think the best part about this is David's storyline going through. Michael Fassbender just does a great job playing him, and the way that he's able to bring life and nuance to this android, and I mean, who's got programmed motives, but he works within those programmed motives because he does kind of have a soul. It kind of, you do kind of feel that he is a person, and it really parallels the very first Alien movie in a lot of thematic ways. But really, this isn't really a good Alien prequel because the way that they do tie in the Alien, I mean, it's really hard to talk about it without talking about spoilers. But spoiler alert: the very last part of the film, you just get to see a straight up xenomorph, proto xenomorph, a deacon, I believe they called that David has created. And I'm not sure why he created it. I think he just kind of created it just to see if he could create life. Holy shit! That means, oh my god, I love it. The whole thing ties in. I just made this on-air conclusion that means that the xenomorph's creation is just like David's creation, which is just like the human's creation. David did it because he could. He just did it. I walked out of the film, or I watched it at home. So I was like, I was just sitting there after it was over. I was like, why did he do that? Why is the xenomorph even there? It just seemed like it was just randomly, like, just, oh, he randomly created a xenomorph. That ties into the plot of the film. That ties into the themes of the film. He did it just because he could. That's brilliant. Ridley Scott, the way that this film, whenever you watch it at first, you do not get a lot to it. There's a lot of things that you're just like, okay, well, that was a weird, freak show. But then you start to look at the themes within the name of the planet, LV-223, Leviticus 223. I don't know. It's something like that. He's got all these like Bible verses, references with the creation of man and what has to do with that, and also with the engineers and Prometheus, the name of the ship, Prometheus being the Greek god who kind of, I guess, he created man and stole fire and gave it to man. I don't know. A lot of cool stuff like that. Just a lot of literary overtones and references that are small, but it just makes this, what seems to be this really isolated film, just seem all that more interesting and all that more. It's a very much a slow burn, and it does rely on a few horror tropes that were made famous by the very first film, Alien, from 1979. But this is really a very much so, I feel like, a good thematic prequel. It doesn't really, if you expect to learn, I mean, other than the fact that the origins of the alien is just random and just because David could, it's, I mean, you don't really get a lot of like, oh, well, so here's why. I mean, and then with the engineers and their spaceship and the way that they're able to recreate the sets of the first film, I do feel like it kind of took away in some senses, because this is a part where it also feels a little bit shoehorned. The engineer's spaceship is the tomb from the first film, whenever John Hurt encounters the egg. he's inside one of the engineers' ships, and I always thought that was just a tomb that that the aliens, the xenomorphs, just were born or died. It just had to do with the planet, and I thought it was just a unique atmosphere and set to that one location. And now it's just like, oh, that's just there's a bunch of them, and that's just why it looked like that. It just seemed like a really shoehorned kind of. I did appreciate the reveal, you know, whenever you see the engineer get into the ship, and you're like, holy shit, that's the set from the first film. That's a pretty cool reveal, but then it does ultimately, I feel like, take away from the first film. I do think that the best way to look at this is just an isolated film with thematic tie. I mean, of course, the xenomorph at the end, the deacon, David being responsible for pretty much accidentally or just, you know, whimsically, if that's a word, creating frivolously the aliens that become the xenomorphs, that become this whole, you know, several film kind of endeavors, but just a very minute details just really make all the more difference in this film, and it's really smart the way that Ridley Scott's able to do it. I originally didn't appreciate this film for as much as I did. I was going to give it 7.5 out of 10, but now after making all these revelations here on air, I'm going to give Alien Covenant, nope, not yet. We're talking about Prometheus. I'm going to give Prometheus 8 out of 10. Well, thanks for checking out this video, guys. If you liked it, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. We're going to be back with another movie news dump next week. I didn't really want to do one this week because just really sad news with Zack Snyder and his family. My deepest condolences to them. But again, we'll be back with another movie news dump next week. In the meantime, if you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well, you're welcome to do that at Samuel D. Carrico. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.